Hello everyone. So today's topic is manufacturing industries. So we'll be going through the entire chapter, including all map questions and a couple of questions in the end. So we're going to start with a small introductory session. So can Ayaz tell me what manufacturing is? Just give you a small idea. Anything you know, it's fine. Just give a small idea.
Manuf-
What manufacturing?
manufacturing is the production of goods in large quantities after processing from raw materials to more
Okay.
valuable products.
Okay, yeah, that's a good definition. Now, what are the examples of manufacturing? So we'll get a better idea through examples. So Hrithwik, can you tell like what are the examples of manufacturing? Like suppose if you have a raw material, what does manufacturing industries do with it? So what are the examples? Just any one example. Hrithwik, can you give? Hrithwik, anyone can give? Can anyone give any one example of what like what manufacturing industries do basically? Anyone has any examples? You can take the example of wood and paper. Like, can anyone relate to it?
Manufacturing of textiles,
Manufacturing
dresses,
of textiles, yes.
manufacturing of wood,
Wood.
food.
You can make paper from wood. So these are all some examples. So we'll be going through a lot of them today. We have a lot of manufacturing industries.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll start the class now. So manufacturing is the production of goods in large quantities after processing from raw materials to more valuable products, as Ayaz had told. Now, examples of manufacturing are paper is manufactured from wood, sugar from sugarcane, iron and steel from iron ore, and aluminium from bauxite. We'll be going through each of them one by one. The economic strength of a country is measured by the development of manufacturing industries. So, Khadir, can you tell me why, like, can you relate this point to the importance of manufacturing? Why is the economic strength of a country dependent on like the manufacturing industries of that country? Can you give some reasons, Khadir?
One minute, the camera mic is.
Yes. Can you repeat? Anyone knows any example of manufacturing? So suppose you have raw material.
Wait, Aman, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Manufacturing industries, they provide jobs at all levels.
Okay.
In tertiary sector, secondary sector, and the primary sector.
Okay.
They help the country grow in economy,
Okay.
and the country's overall GDP grows as well.
Okay, nice, perfect. So manufacturing sectors. Okay, now let's take an example. Suppose if you have raw materials. Okay, maybe I'll take wood as we have talking about the example. Paper is manufactured from wood. Suppose if you have just wood and you have these people who like cut wood and sell them. So let's relate this to papers. Okay, so suppose there are a couple of cutters who like cut wood and supply them to industries that produce wood. I mean paper from it. So now suppose this paper industry closes down. Like there are absolutely no paper industries in the world. Every paper industry just closes down. So would these cutters be in a loss? Like these wood cutters, would they be in a loss or profit? Anyone can tell? Would they be in a loss or profit?
Loss.
Yes, they will be in a loss because they used to sell their wood to these industries so that they can manufacture paper from it. But these industries have closed down, so they cannot sell their products anywhere. Now, second of all, you have industry. One second. Okay, one second. One second. Okay. Okay. So, as we were discussing, manufacturing is the production of goods in large quantities after processing from raw materials to more valuable products. So, for example, if we consider the example of wood, wood is processed to produce paper. So, this is one example of manufacturing. Similarly, sugar from sugarcane, iron and steel from iron ore, and aluminium from bauxite. So, we will be going through these each of these ones one by one. Also, the economic strength of a country is measured by the development of manufacturing industries. So Khadir, can you tell why is it so? Like why? What could be the reasons? Like what is the importance of manufacturing?
Helps provide jobs to people who don't have jobs in as countries GDP as I told before.
Okay, so GDP. So we'll be going through that now. Importance of manufacturing. Jashwant, you can. Hello. Yes, Jashwant, you can start with this.
No, you continue. You
Okay, I'll
continue.
continue. Okay, so the importance of manufacturing. Now, manufacturing sector is considered to be the backbone of development in general and economic development in particular. So this is because manufacturing industries, first of all, it helps in modernizing agriculture, which forms the backbone of our economy. But they do this and they also reduce the heavy dependence of people on agricultural income. Now we know that more than 50% of the Indian population, they're dependent on agriculture. But like in many places, there is a problem of underemployment. That is, there are more people employed in agriculture than there's like than required. So this is because there's no like other employment opportunities for these people. So manufacturing industries, they help reduce the heavy dependence of people on the agricultural income by providing them jobs in secondary and tertiary sector. Now, industrial development is also a precondition for the eradication of unemployment and poverty from a country. So this was the main philosophy behind the public sector industries and joint sector ventures in India. The manufacturing is also aimed at bringing down regional disparities by establishing industries in tribal and backward areas. So we know that like when certain industries develop in the backward areas, the whole region develops. So this is because like the process of urbanization, it all takes place when like new industries are set up in the area. Also, the export of manufactured good expands trade and commerce and brings in much needed foreign exchange. Countries that transform their raw material into a wide variety of furnished goods of higher value are prosperous. And the prosperity of India lies in diversifying and increasing its manufacturing industries as quick as possible. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how agriculture and industry are like relative terms. So they're not exclusive of these each other. They move hand in hand. So there's 3 points by which we can explain this. So first of all, the agro industries in India, they depend upon the raw materials that come from agriculture. For example, if you're talking about cotton textile industries, they cannot function without the farmers giving them cotton. So these agro industries, they require raw materials from the agricultural sector. Now from the if you look into the other side of this, agro industries, they boost agriculture by raising its productivities. They sell their products such as irrigation pumps, fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, plastics and PVC pipes, machines and tools, etc. to the farmers. So this helps the farmers to increase their productivity and make the whole production process more efficient. So the development of and competitiveness of the manufacturing industry, it has not only assisted agriculturists in increasing their production, but also made the production processes more efficient. And in the present day world of globalization, our industry needs to be more efficient and competitive. Self-sufficiency is not alone is not enough. So as we have learned in the chapters such as agriculture, our products are not as good as like if you compare them to all the developed countries and other countries of the world. So our manufactured good, it must be at par in quality with those in the international market. Only then we will be able to compete in the international market. So now we're going to talk about the contribution of industry to national economy. So this is a quite important question also that can come for our exams. Over the last 2 decades, the share of manufacturing industry has stagnated at 17% of GDP. Now, out of this 17% is for manufacturing sector, but it is out of 27%, which includes the whole industry. So this additional 10%, it includes mining, quarrying, electricity, and gas.
I know.
Yes,
Who
sir.
is there? Who is the boy? Name?
Sir, Aman, sir.
Samir from which? Samir, whether your name is included in this class?
It is Samir, sir.
Okay, he will include. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Aman, can you take the attendance also?
Yes, sir, yes, everyone is there, sir. Sir, like from 10K, everyone I checked. Jashwant, can you check for your class?
No, no, 10K, how many boys? We invited not everybody.
Yes, sir. Sir, Ibrahim is there. So there were five
Ah,
names. Ibrahim,
5 names. Yeah, yeah. I want selected boys, not everyone.
yes, sir. Ibrahim is there. Marwan,
Ah, ah.
Fabio, Abdu, Amanpreet, sir. Five is there. Everyone is there.
Why that other 2 boys who came for the physical class, they are not present? Hani,
Sir, I called them, sir.
Fagruddin?
Sir, they both are
Ah,
absent in class today, sir.
why? What happened
So I think they're sick or something.
for them? Okay, okay. So let them join later on. Okay, no problem. And from 10 and Jaswant, Rudraksh is there. Are you
Yes, sir.
inviting Kyle, sorry, Dale and Ayush?
So, yes, I'll send them the link. They have to join.
Yeah, yeah. Rudraksh is there, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Rudraksh is there.
Okay, okay, okay. Carry on, carry on. Okay, carry on, Aman. And
Okay.
when the factors affecting the location of industries, that part you give it to Jaswant.
Okay, sir. Then we'll do one by industries. Like we'll do
No,
one.
yeah, one slide he will do it.
Okay, sir.
That slide he will do it.
Okay, sir. So now we're going to talk about the contribution of industry to national economy. So as I was just telling, the share of manufacturing industry has stagnated at 17% of GDP out of total 27% for industry. So this additional 10% includes like activities like mining, quarrying, electricity, and gas. So this rate of growth of GDP, it is much lower in comparison to some of the East Asian economies, where it is like almost at 24 to 25 to 35%. So the trend of growth rate in the manufacturing sector over the last decade has been around 7% per annum, but the desired growth rate over the next decade is 12%. So this is possible. And manufacturing is growing once again at a growth rate of about 9 to 10% per annum. And with appropriate policy interventions by the government and renewed efforts by the industry to improve their productivity, economists predict that manufacturing can achieve this target of like increasing their growth rate up to 12% over the next decade. And the National Manufacturing Competitiveness Council has been set up with the objective of the same. So next slide. So this is the factors affecting industrial location. So Jashwant, you can do.
Yeah, I'll take over.
Yes.
So now let's look at the factors that affect the industrial location. So the first one is the availability of raw materials. Cheap and abundant availability of raw materials is a key factor. So suppose you're setting up a paper industry, you need to make sure there are trees there, or you're setting up a cloth industry. So you need to make sure that the resources needed to manufacture your good are available in that particular area. Next, the second one is labor. So there should be availability of cheap labor for low cost of production. So like no use of only having raw materials. You need to have people who can help you convert that raw material into the finished products which we need. And then there are specialized labor who also influence the location of our industry. These include mechanics, electricians, etc., who take care of the skilled work which is required. Then we should have capital. It is necessary for developing infrastructure for the entire manufacturing process and for meeting manufacturing expenditure. So without having money in hand, it's not possible to buy the raw material. We won't be able to pay the laborers. So slowly the industry may shut down or the factory may shut down if we don't have capital. The fifth one is power. Cheap and continuous supply of power or electricity is extremely necessary. So to avoid the cost of power, most of the industries are usually located near dams where they get hydroelectricity. So this is one reason why you see industries near to dams. Next, market. To sell the manufacturing goods, the demand and the market should be there. So it's not always that you make a good and you say you can't just give it to the customers to buy it. You should make sure that that particular product has the demand in the market, and also you should make sure that the market is near so that it's not hard to transport the finished goods to the market. The next one is the least cost. The production cost must be the least cost After comparing costs, the cheap and low cost place will be selected for locating market industries. Next is the government policies, banking and insurance facilities, and transport, including seaport. All these factors affect the location of the industries. So, we can go to the next slide. Aman, you can continue.
Okay, yeah. So now we're going to talk about the classification of industries. So industries are classified on like several bases. So the first one is on the basis of source of raw materials. So agro-based industries are those industries who derive their raw materials from agricultural producers. For example, cotton, woolen, jute, silk, textile, rubber, sugar, tea, coffee, edible oil, etc. While mineral-based industries are those industries that derive their raw material from minerals and metals. For example, iron and steel, cement, aluminium, machine tools, and petrochemicals. Okay, so you have a question. Which of the following is a mineral-based product? So you can respond. You have an option on the bottom of your screen, so you can respond. So which you have to answer which of the following is a mineral-based product. So basically, which is manufactured by the mineral-based industry.
Where the options will come.
So the options they can see, sir.
Okay.
So if I show an answer, like they'll see the answer.
Okay. Okay. Rudraksh, could you able to do it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so let's look at the answers. One sec. Yes, so it has come. Okay, so the answer is cement. So over here, cotton, tea, and wool, these are the products that we get from the agro-based industries, whereas cement is something that is produced by the mineral-based industry. So that's the question. So next one now, Jashwant, you can take.
I can still see the, yeah. So, according to the main role, basic or key industries which supply the products or raw material to manufacture other goods, example irons and steel and copper smelting, iron smelting. Consumer industries that produce goods for direct use by consumers. These are sugar, toothpaste, paper, sewing machines, fans, etc. So we can see that there are two type of industries. One are the basic or the key industries which supply raw materials for manufacturing other goods. So example, iron and steel, which can be further used to manufacture cars. Copper can be used for some making some vessels, etc. And the other type of industries are the consumer industries. These produce goods that can be directly used by us, like sugar we use in cooking and all, toothpaste, etc.
Okay, so the next one. So the next classification is on the basis of capital investment. So I'll just tell it in short. A small scale industry is defined as those industries whose investment is less than 1 crore. So these industries, there's a like they're defined with a reference to maximum investment that is allowed on assets of a unit, and this has changed from time to time. So at the present time, those industries that make investment more than 1 crore, they are known as large scale industries, and those in like industries that invest less than 1 crore, they're known as small scale industry. That's it. Now on the basis of ownership.
On the basis of ownership. So on the basis of ownership, they're divided into four: the public sector, the private sector, the joint sectors, and the cooperative sectors. So first one is the public sector. These are usually owned by the government. The private sector, these are owned by individuals or a group of individuals. Then comes the joint sector, which is jointly run by the state and the individual, like Oil India Limited, etc. They're owned by the public as well as the private sector. The next one is the cooperative sector industry. These are owned and operated by the producers or the suppliers of raw materials, workers, or both. They pool in the resources and share the profits or losses proportionally, such as the sugar industry in Maharashtra and the coir industry in Kerala. Aman, continue.
Yeah. Okay, so the last classification is on the basis of bulk and weight of the raw material and the finished goods. So heavy industries are those industries that use heavy raw materials and produce very heavy goods, and the transportation costs on these goods are also very heavy. Like that means it's very costly. So the example of heavy industries are iron and steel. So we can understand, like we know that the like products of iron and steel are very heavy, so you can include them in heavy industries. On the other hand, light industries are those industries that produce light raw materials and produce light goods, such as electrical industries. Okay, so now we're going to start off with the textile industry.
So, Aman, you'll take over.
No, you can do this, then I'll do the cotton textile, then you can do jute. Like that will go.
Okay. Okay. So first we have the textile industry. So the textile industry occupies unique position in the Indian economy because it contributes significantly to industrial production, which is about 14%, employment generation, 35 million persons directly, the second largest after agriculture, the foreign exchange earnings, about 24.6%. It also contributes to 4% towards the GDP of India. It's the only industry in the country which is self-reliant and complete in the value chain. That is from raw materials to the highest value added products.
Okay, so now we're going to start off with cotton textile industries. Okay, so cotton textile industries. So in the early years, the cotton textile industry was concentrated in the cotton growing belt of Maharashtra and Gujarat. So there are certain reasons for this. So the first one is the availability of raw cotton. So as we learned, like as Jashwant had told in the factors that affect the location of industry, the availability of cheap and like proximity to raw materials is one of the most important key factors in the location of industry. The second one is market. So obviously the products that are produced by these industries have to be sold, and we need a market for that. So markets are important for like in the settlement of cotton textile industries in Maharashtra and Gujarat. The next one is transport, including accessible port facilities. We also need labor. We need skilled and unskilled cheap labor so that the production work can go on efficiently. And especially for cotton textiles, we need moist climate. So these factors, they contribute towards the location of cotton textiles in Maharashtra and Gujarat. Now, this industry also has close links with agriculture. So there are many different types of workers that are involved in this production process. For example, there's the cotton ball pluckers. There are farmers who produce the cotton. There are workers who are engaged in ginning, spinning, weaving, dyeing, designing, packaging, tailoring, sewing. All these are involved in the same production process. Also, the industry, by creating demands, it supports many other industries such as chemical and dyes, mill stores, packaging materials, and engineering works. India exports yarn to Japan. Other importers of cotton goods from India are USA, UK, Russia, France, East European countries, Nepal, Singapore, Sri Lanka, and African countries. Okay, so the next one. So now let's talk about some problems that are faced by these industries. So India has world-class production in spinning, but weaving supplies low-quality fabric. Knitting and processing units also cannot use the high-quality yarn that is produced in the country. So there is high-quality yarn that is produced in our country, and the spinning sector is like it's known all around the world. Like the product that we get from spinning, it's worldwide, like world renowned. But then the weaving, processing, and knitting sections, they cannot use the high-quality yarn, and hence their production, like what the products they make is not of so good quality. It's low quality fabric. Also, there are some large and modern factories in the segments, but most of the production is fragmented in small units that caters to local market. So only some of the factories like export their goods to the international market, whereas the majority of the like products are being sold in the local markets by small units. Also, we have an increase in production. The production of these goods have increased, but then we still need to import goods. There are other problems such as the power supply is not continuous, it's erratic. Machinery also needs to be upgraded in the weaving and processing sectors and units. Other problems are low output of labor. So low output of labor is basically because of the it's the not so upgraded machineries, and also we have stiff competition with synthetic industry. So we can also take the example of jute. Like the use of jute is decreasing because of its competition from the synthetic industry. So even cotton faces a similar problem. Okay, so we have a map question now. You all can try it out. Whereas Amanpreet, can you try doing it? I'll share the screen. So can you try attempting all the questions? So we'll go through it one by one. So you all can try it by the time. So Amarpreet, can you try it? I can only see your response now.
Did for me it's coming, the teacher has logged response.
Oh, wait, not this. I'd given you another link, right? Another code.
Now it came.
Yeah, this one. Okay, so this is Amanpreet's map. So first of all, you can make the circle smaller, I think. Okay, fine. Okay, so I'll point it out for now. So you guys can try it out with me. So anyway, this will become practice during this time. So yeah. So first of all, can you see my laser light? Can you see it? Can you see? Anyone can see? You can see my laser light. I'm pointing it.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, we can see.
So first of all, we have to start with Kanpur. So you have to mark Kanpur with the red dot. So Kanpur is located over here in Madhya Pradesh. It's located above or like right over here. So everyone can try this out. So you see this like, can everyone see? Everyone can see it, right? Yeah, okay. So this is where Kanpur is located. Now this is Indore. Hello, can everyone see it? Is it lagging for you? Hello, can you? Which state am I pointing at? Can someone tell? I'm just to check. Okay, wait. I think you can see it. So this is Kanpur. Everyone can see it, right? It's basically if you draw a straight line from this space, like this whole shape over here. If you draw like straight line over here, you will reach somewhere over here. So this is where Kanpur is located. This exact place over right over here. Now, second of all, Indore. Indore is located like in Madhya Pradesh, right over here. So if it's somewhere like a bit towards the left hand side, if you consider this small upward, what do you say, depression. So it's right over here. This is where Indore is located. So you guys can mark it along with me. So first of all, red you should be marking it over here, and orange should be over somewhere over here. Third one is Surat. Surat is in Gujarat, towards the southern region of Gujarat. We consider it to be the second Gulf. So this is where Surat is located, like right over here. Fourth is Mumbai. We all know Mumbai. It's the coastal port. So we have a small depression over here, as you can see. I cannot zoom in right now, but then you can see a small depression over here. So this is where, like right on the coast, is where Mumbai is located, like right over there. And the last one is Coimbatore. Coimbatore is in Tamil Nadu, as most of us should be knowing. It's right over here, like a bit. It's really close to the Kerala India border, towards the north side of the state.
Kerala, India border.
No, Kerala Tamil Nadu border. You can see where I'm pointing, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
right over there. Right over there. Okay, so I think everyone is done. So next one now, jute textiles. You can take over, Jashwant.
I'll take over. So now we come to the jute textiles. India is the largest producer of raw jute and jute goods and exporter after Bangladesh. There are about 70. Can you go back?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
The presentation has changed. I've come to iron and steel plant map.
Can you see?
Yeah, now I can see. Yeah, thank you. So there are about 70 jute mills in India. So most of these are located in the West Bengal, mainly along the banks of the Hooghly River in a narrow belt that's 98 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide. So India is the second largest producer of jute goods after Bangladesh, and it's also the second place in exporting jute goods after Bangladesh. So there are presently about 70 jute mills in India, and most of these are located in the West Bengal along the banks of the Hooghly River. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So the factors responsible for their location in the Hooghly Basin are proximity of the jute producing area, inexpensive water transport, supported by a good network of railways, roadways, and waterways to facilitate movement of raw materials to the mills, abundant water for processing raw jute, cheap labor from West Bengal and adjoining states of Bihar, Orissa, and Uttar Pradesh, Kolkata as a large urban center providing banking, insurance, and port facilities for export of jute goods. So here we can see that most of the factors that are responsible for a location of an industry are covered here. So this first, the inexpensive water transport supported by a there's good transport facilities which help in the movement of raw material as well as export. There's cheap labor. The cheap labor is from West Bengal and the adjoining states of Bihar, Orissa, and Uttar Pradesh. And Kolkata as a large urban center, it provides banking, insurance, port facilities, etc. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So now we'll see the problems faced by this industry. Challenges faced by the industries include stiff competition in the international market from synthetic substitutes, stiff competition from other competitors like Bangladesh, Brazil, Philippines, Egypt, and Thailand. To stimulate demand, the products need to be diversified. So first challenge they're facing is the stiff competition from the synthetic materials, from like nylon, etc. And the other is from other countries who are producing jute. That's Bangladesh, Brazil, Philippines, Egypt, and Thailand. And the Indians who produce jute, they have to diversify their products, like not just producing jute, but they can diversify like by producing jute bags, like that, etc. They can make a wide range of products out of jute, which are going to have a demand in the international market. So the steps taken to solve these problems. The steps taken by the Indian government to solve the challenges by jute industries are: in 2005, National Jute Policy was formulated by the government with the following objectives. The first objective is to increase the productivity of jute mills, to improve quality of jute products, to ensure good prices to jute farmers, and to enhance the jute yield per hectare. So these are the four objectives that was taken by the National Jute Policy by the government to solve the problems.
So we have another MCQ question in front of you. So which of the following countries is the largest producer of jute in the world? So your options are, you can see the options on your screen. You have India, Bangladesh, China, Nepal. So you have to choose which one is the largest producer of jute in the world. Answer first. It's just an MCQ, just it's kind of obvious. So yeah. Okay, so in India is the largest producer of jute in the world, but just keep in mind that Bangladesh is the largest exporter of jute. So just keep that point in mind. Now we go to the next one. So sugar industry. Sugar industry. Now, India stands second as the producer of sugar, but then it is first in place in the production of gur and khandsari. So the raw material that is used in this industry is bulky, and in haulage, its sucrose content reduces. So the sugar canes, they first of all they're really bulky, so you can consider them in the heavy type of industry. Now, second of all, as the time limit, so after the what do you say harvest is done, the longer time you take to reach these to the factories and do the production work, the like the more the time you take, the lesser will be the sucrose content you get from it. Sucrose content means sugar content. So you have to reach these sugar canes to the factories or industries as fast as possible, or else the sugar content will keep decreasing, and in the end they will be of it'll be of no use. Now there is 460 mills, sugar mills in the country. It is spread over Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, along Punjab, Haryana, and Madhya Pradesh. But 60% of the sugar mills are present in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Now, also one more thing is that this industry is seasonal in nature, so it is ideally suited to the cooperative sector. Now, cooperative sector is that those industries where the suppliers of the first of all the producers, suppliers of goods, they pool in their resources and manage the industry. Okay, so now locational factors. So in recent years, there has been a tendency of these sugar mills to shift and concentrate towards the southern and western states. For example, Maharashtra. So this is because the cane that is produced here has a higher sucrose content. So more sucrose content means more benefit they can make of these sugar canes. Now, second of all, the cooler climate also ensures a longer crushing season. Now, and third of all, as we have discussed, we know that cooperatives are important for the location of sugar industry, and cooperatives are like much comparatively more successful in Maharashtra. So it's another factor for its location. Okay, now the states of places these are located. It's mainly Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, as we had just discussed. Also Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu. Okay, so from what we have discussed, Kadir, can you tell what could be a limitation of this industry? Like we told that there's a problem of losing sugar content when it takes time to travel. So can you make a disadvantage, like a limitation of this industry, a problem that is faced? Khadir.
Uh, mm, I don't think I know, sir.
Okay. So let's discuss it. Okay. First of all, let's discuss it. So there'll be question in the end. I think I have included this question in the test. Like there's a test in the end. So just keep this in mind. So first of all, the seasonal nature of the sugar industry. So it's seasonal. That's why cooperatives are handling it in the first place. So there is the sugar industries are seasonal. So the sugar mills are busy in some months at the times of sugarcane harvest, and they're not busy at other times. And there is the production processes. That is, the methods of production are old, like they're old and inefficient. So there's we have to improve our machineries and stuff. Also, we have to use latest technology, or else the production it will be lower than what we can do. Like it's lower than our potential. Also the transport, there's a transport delay in reaching sugarcane to factories. So what would happen by this is that we know that, like, as long as, like, the more time we take to reach the sugarcane to factories, the more sucrose content decreases, and that is not good. So if there's a transport delay, that means the sugar content will reduce, and the as a whole the profit of the industry will decrease. So there is a transport delay in reaching sugarcane to factories. Also, there's a need to maximize the use of bagasse. Now, bagasse, it's like a byproduct that you get after the production process is over. So this bagasse can be used to like produce, like manufacture paper and like a variety of stuff, but then it's not used currently to an extent. We're kind of in a way wasting it. So it's a problem faced by this industry. Okay, so iron and steel industry. So we're heading on to the mineral industries. So yeah, Yashwant, you can take over.
Yeah. So as Aman said, now we're coming to the mineral industries. So the first one is the iron and steel industry. The iron and steel industry is the basic industry since all other industries, heavy, medium, and light, depend on it for their machinery. Steel is needed to manufacture a variety of engineering goods, construction materials, defense, medical, telephonic, scientific equipment, and a variety of consumer goods. So basically the first paragraph says that the iron and steel industry, it's the base industry for all other industries. So basically all the machinery they have, most of the equipments they have in their industries or in the factories, all are made out of iron or steel. So, and even in defense, medical, like most of the equipments, the guns, they're all made out of iron and steel. So the iron and steel has a very important role. It plays a very important role. Next point is that the production and consumption of steel is often regarded as the index of a country's development. Iron and steel is a heavy industry because all the raw materials as well as the finished goods are heavy and bulky, entailing heavy transportation costs. Iron ore, coking coal, and limestone are required in the ratio of approximately 4:2:1. Some quantities of manganese are also required to harden the steel. So here we can see that the first, can you go back first? Yeah. So here we can see that production and consumption of steel is regarded as the index for country's development. And then we can also see that uh, for making, for hardening the steel, there's manganese required. This can be asked as an MCQ question, that which material is required to harden the steel. So the answer is going to be manganese. This can be a 1-mark MCQ question. So we can go to the next slide. So the locational factors. The Chotanagpur Plateau has a higher concentration of iron and steel industries due to the following reasons. It has low cost of iron ore. It has high grade raw materials, that is good quality of iron and steel available. It has cheap labor. It has vast growth potentially in home markets, efficient transport network for their distribution to the markets and consumers. We can go to the next slide. So now we are coming to the problems faced by the iron and steel industries. The first problem is the high cost of coking coal, the limited availability of coking coal, then low productivity of the labor, irregular supply of energy, and poor infrastructure. So due to lack of these facilities, they're not able to develop. So the steps taken to solve these problems are liberalization and foreign direct investment have given a boost to the industry with the effort of private entrepreneurs. There is a need to allocate resources for research and development to produce steel more competitively.
So can anyone tell why liberalization must have provided like such a boost? Anyone knows why? Even foreign directness, like even both of this. Does anyone know why? Okay, so basically, liberalization means removing trade barriers from the country. So at one point of the Indian history, these like the government had restricted like other countries to export their goods into India to like basically to protect the workers of India. But at one point, like about I think 1991 or something, they basically removed these trade barriers. So that is what is called liberalization. So what liberalization forced the workers to do is that now, since the trade barriers were removed, the high quality products from other countries entered into India. So when the like, so basically the market is filled with more like you can also tell low cost because in India industries were not that developed by that time, but in other countries the industries were very well developed. And industrial production the cost is much lower, and hence even the products cost will be lower to the buyers. So basically, the Indian workers like the producers they had a big competition with them like against them, so they had to compete against the like industrial like international goods. So this forced them to improve their own goods. So basically indirectly it helped the Indian workers to like you know to research and find other techniques and develop their own technology and produce more high quality goods. So that's an important point. Now I think we are going for the second map. So for this one, I have someone to demonstrate it. So you can do it. The responses are on, but then I'll be switching on to another PPT. Marwan, can you try? Like you can just the same color. You just need to put it in. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So the first one is Bokaro. So you can try locating it. You have your option, right? I think I've enabled it. Yeah, you can do it. Everyone can try it, okay? Okay, so we can see him do it now. So this is correct. So I think the dot is coming a bit too big for some reason. So you can do it, but let's just try to do it in another way. So I'll try to point it out as well. Okay, so first of all, you can do it with me. It will be a practice for you all. So first of all, Bokaro with red color. So Bokaro is in Jharkhand, like right over here. So you can see this. What do you say? You can see it's a kind of a depression that of Bangladesh that's moving inside, and it's just above that. So the red dot is Bokaro. Second one is Durgapur in orange color. It's in West Bengal, almost towards the center, but a bit towards the right. I mean left. So it's right over here. That's Durgapur. Third, with yellow color, you have to mark Bhilai. Bhilai is in Chhattisgarh, and it's somewhere over. So you see this protruding part over here. It's just right over here, like close to
I
it.
marked all.
Okay, yeah, I'll get back to you. Okay. With for green we have Vijayanagar. Okay, that's I didn't mean to do that. Just ignore that. Okay, Vijayanagar is located in Karnataka. So it's right over here. Again, you see another depression over here. It's just in front of it. This is Vijayanagar, and the last one with blue you have to mark Salem. Salem is in Tamil Nadu, and it's right over here. You see a protruding part of Karnataka into like Kerala. I mean Tamil Nadu, and it's right next to it. So it's right over here. So you can all try it out. It'll be good practice for everyone. There's one more location. When I move to the next slide, we can do it. So let's see what he did. So this is correct. It's just because the dots are a bit too big, but I'm pretty sure that's what he meant because the locations are correct. He pointed it as well. So yeah, perfect. So there's one more question. Jamshedpur. Jamshedpur. Yeah, Marwan, you can try this one also. Jamshedpur is located in Jharkhand. Even this is located in Jharkhand. So let me clear the screen. So now with red color, you have to mark Jamshedpur in the screen. It's right over here. So is there any doubt in the map questions? Like till here, is there any doubt? It's almost the half point of the chapter. Does anyone have any doubt? No? If not, then let's continue. So this is basically the content of the chapter. It's almost 3/4 over. So now it's not so important topic we're going to go on with. So first of all, aluminium smelting. Aluminium smelting. One second. Yeah, aluminium smelting is the second most important metallurgical industry in India. So it is light to aluminium. Okay, we're talking about aluminium now. Aluminium is light and resistant to corrosion, and it is a good conductor of heat. It is malleable and it becomes strong when it is mixed with other metals. Aluminium is used to manufacture aircraft, utensils, wires. It has gained popularity as a substitute of steel, copper, zinc, lead in a number of industries. So basically, the main point is that aluminium has a lot of uses. So now there are 8 aluminium smelting plants in the country located in Orissa, West Bengal, Kerala, Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, and Tamil Nadu. And in 2004, over 600 million tons of aluminium was produced in India. So now locational factors. So basically, there's only 2 locational factors for the location of aluminium industries. That is electricity, regular supply of electricity, and assured source of raw material. Now, the main raw material is bauxite. So we know that aluminium is basically produced from bauxite. So bauxite is a raw material that is used in smelters. It is bulky, dark reddish in color, and it's a rock. So these two are the prime factors for the location of industry. So the 2 factors are electricity and assured source of raw material. So those are the locational factors. So that's it. That's basically aluminium industries. So Jashwant, can continue.
Okay, so next we come on to the chemical industries. The chemical industry in India is a fast-growing and it is fast-growing and diversifying. Contributes approximately 3% of the total GDP. It is the third largest in Asia and occupies the 12th place in the world in terms of its size. It comprises both large and small scale manufacturing units. Rapid growth has been recorded in both inorganic and organic sectors. Inorganic chemicals include sulfuric acid, used to manufacture fertilizers, synthetic fibers, plastics, adhesives, paints, dye stuff. Next is the nitric acid, alkalis, soda ash, used to make glass, soaps, detergents, and paper. Next, the last one is the caustic soda. So these industries are widely spread over the country. Next, organic chemicals include petrochemicals, which are used for the manufacturing of synthetic fibers, synthetic rubber, plastics, dye stuff, drugs, and
Pharmaceuticals.
pharmaceuticals.
Hmm.
Organic chemical plant.
Manufacturing of tablets, allopathic tablets.
So, so then we continue. So the organic chemicals plants are located near all refineries or petrochemical plants. The chemical industry is its own largest consumer. Basic chemicals undergo processing to further produce other chemicals that are used for industrial application, agriculture, or directly for consumer markets. So here we can see that the chemical industry, it's the third largest in Asia. It occupies the 12th place in the world in terms of its size. It has both large and small scale manufacturing units. So it has a rapid growth in both organic and inorganic in the sectors. So here we can see a few inorganic chemicals like the sulfuric acid, nitric acid, alkalis, soda ash, and caustic soda. Then we have few of the organic chemicals, which include the petrochemicals that are used for manufacturing synthetic fibers, synthetic rubber, etc. So these chemical industries is its own largest consumer. This basically means that chemical industries, they produce different type of chemicals. They again consume these own chemicals to produce other types of chemicals. So they use basically, if one chemical industry is producing a chemical A, they again use that same chemical A to produce a different chemical B. So that's what that line means.
Okay, so
So these different chemicals are used for in agriculture or direct use for the consumer market. So we can go to the next
the
slide.
next one is fertilizer industry. Now, the fertilizer industry is mainly involved in the production of nitrogenous fertilizers, mainly urea, phosphatic fertilizers, ammonium phosphate, and complex fertilizers, which have a combination of nitrogen, phosphate, and potash. So we have learned before also that nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, these are the main three minerals you can say that is required for the proper growth of plant, and we need this for the fertilizer industry as well. Now, the third one, that is potash. Potash, we don't have potash reserves in our country, so this has to be imported from other countries. So also India is the third largest producer of nitrogenous fertilizers. There is 57 fertilizer units manufacturing nitrogenous and complex nitrogenous fertilizers, 29 for urea and 9 for producing ammonium sulfate as byproduct, and 68 other small units which produce single superphosphate. And at present, there are 10 public sector undertakings and one in a cooperative sector at Hazira in Gujarat under the Fertilizer Corporation of India. It's not that important. So, yeah, we can go on to the next one. So after the Green Revolution, the industry expanded to several different parts of the country. So we know that Green Revolution, like basically it revolutionized the agriculture sector in India. It bought out HYV seeds, fertilizers, insecticides, drip irrigation methods, all those kind of stuff was introduced. So even the industry developed during, like as a result of the Green Revolution. So the industry it spread to Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, and Kerala. So these states also contribute to half of the fertilizer productions. Other significant producers are Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, Rajasthan, Bihar, Maharashtra, Assam, West Bengal, Goa, Delhi, Madhya Pradesh, and Karnataka. Cement industry. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll take over. So the cement industry. Cement is essential for construction activity such as building houses, factories, bridges, roads, airports, dams, and for other commercial establishments. This industry requires bulky and heavy raw materials like limestone, silica, alumina, and gypsum. Coal and electrical power are needed apart from the rail transportation. Improvement in the quality has has found the produce a readily available market in East Asia, Middle East, Africa, and South Asia, apart from a large demand within the country. So here we can see that the cement, which is usually used for construction activities, it's it requires a bulky and heavy raw materials like limestone, silica, alumina, and gypsum. Coal and electrical power are needed also apart from the rail transportation. Here they say rail transportation because this industry requires bulky and heavy raw materials. So rail transportation in the country is a suitable form rather than air transport, which is expensive. Or even road transport is not suitable right here because it can carry very limited amount for the industry. And the improvement in this quality, it has found a readily available market in other parts of the world also, apart from the large demand within our country, that's India. So we can go to the next slide.
Okay, so the automobile industry. Now, automobile industry is a fast developing industry in India. So the automobiles provide vehicles for quick transport for of goods and goods, services, and passengers. So we know, like we obviously know what automobiles are. Trucks, buses, cars, motorcycles, scooters, three-wheelers, multi-utility vehicles, they are all included in automobiles, and they are manufactured in India at various centers. Now, some of the main locations where these automobile industries are located are Delhi, Gurgaon, Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Kolkata, Lucknow, Indore, Hyderabad, Jamshedpur, and Bangalore. So these are basically most of the, like the main cities of India. So that's where the automobile industries are located. Now, there are some problems that were faced by these industries, and the government has taken some steps to solve them as well. So, after liberalization, the coming in of new and contemporary models. Okay, first of all, liberalization, as we have just discussed. So, at 1991, the government of India, they basically removed all like most of the trade barriers. So, what this like the impact is like widespread. So, it brought in new and contemporary models which stimulated the demand for vehicles in the market. This led to healthy growth of the industry, including passenger cars, two and three wheelers. Also, this industry had a quantum jump in less than 15 years. Quantum means four times jump. Also, the foreign direct investment bought in new technology and aligned the industry in India with global development. So, at present, we have 15 manufacturers of passenger cars and multi-utility vehicles, 9 of commercial cars, and 14 of two and three wheelers. Okay, so that is the automobile industry. Now, information and technology. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is the information technology in the electronics industry. So we daily use many things such as the computers, etc. These all come under the information technology. So the electronics industry covers a wide range of products from transistor sets to televisions, telephones, cellular telecom, pagers, telephone exchange, radars, computers, and many other equipments required by the telecommunication industry. Bangalore has emerged as the electronic capital of India. Other important centers for electronic goods are Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad, Pune, Chennai, Kolkata, Lucknow, and now Coimbatore. So 18 software technology parks provide single window service and high data communication facility to software experts. A major impact of this industry has been on employment generation. Up to 31st March 2005, the IT industry employed over 1 million persons. This number is expected to increase in the next 3 to 4 years. It is encouraging to know that 30% of people employed in this sector are women. This sector has been a major foreign exchange earner in the last 2 or 3 years. because of its fast-growing business processes outsourcing sector. The continuing growth in the hardware and software is the key to success of IT industry in India.
Okay, so
So
now we
here
have
we can
map
see that.
question, like the next map
Okay.
question. So again,
Hello,
Yes, sir.
excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Before that, please check in the recent textbook 2020-21 edition whether that 1 million is given 2005 data
Okay, sir.
IT industry.
So 1 second, I'll check. So I'll pause the screen. I'll just check and come.
I think this is the old edition book. Can you cut and add the latest edition here?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Let me just. I'm trying to find the link. 1 second.
Yeah. No, you don't have that.
The textbooks are online.
Hmm.
Okay, let me just open it.
Rudraksh, if you have textbook, find out. Kadir, Marwan, if you have textbook, find out and help him.
Yes, I'm here, sir.
Hmm.
Uh,
Cut and paste and send to his email. He will paste it here and update.
Information community. Sir, it got cut, sir.
That's what I'm saying.
It's cut. The full thing is cut.
30% women. Why? Then how will you add?
I'll just cut the whole slide, sir. Its full thing is not there.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going on to the map question. So this is the last map that's there in this chapter. So you can all try it out, but then I'll point it in the beginning. Okay.
Aman,
sir.
don't cut that. There is something in it. That IT industry,
Yes, sir.
latest information is given. That you can add. I'm expecting that question may come, but only the content has to be changed.
So this is there, sir. Like this is there, but then this has been cut. Like only one line is
Which
there.
one?
Sir. So only this line is there in the textbook.
Only that much.
Yes, so these two lines. The rest is cut.
Yes, that's what BPO 30% women that and all gone.
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
Okay, so now the map question. So you can all try it out behind, but then I'll just do it before you. So 1 second, let me just clear the screen. Okay. Okay, so first of all, we have Noida. Now Noida is located right next to Delhi. So this is Delhi. You can see my pen. Yeah, you can see. So this is where Noida is located, like right near the border of Delhi. So this is Noida. It's located in Uttar Pradesh, by the way. Second one you have to mark with orange is Hyderabad. So Hyderabad is like over here. So 1 second. So it's like right over here. Like from here, you can just put it right over here. So now third one you have to mark is Chennai. 1 second. So Ayan, you can try it out. Like I gave you another link, so you can try it out there. So I can see yours individually. So I'll be presenting that. 1 second. Let me just check it. 1 second. Yeah. Okay. So the next one, it is yellow.
I think.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the next one is Chennai. You have to mark it with your yellow color. So Chennai is right over here on the coast of Chennai. So we can mark it like right over here. The fourth one is Thiruvananthapuram. Now Thiruvananthapuram is not on the border of Kerala, but it's just like right above the border, and it's on the southernmost part of Kerala. So it's like right over here. It shouldn't touch the border of any of the place. It's like inside, but then it shouldn't touch the border. So it's on the like southernmost part of the country. And the last one that we have on the slide is Bangalore. Bangalore is in Karnataka, first of all, and we see a protruding part over here, and Bangalore is like right above it, like right over here. So these are the 5 locations that we have in this map. We have a couple more locations. It's in the next slide. Okay, so you can all try this out. So we can see the responses. It's there. Okay, so let's try the remaining 4. Okay, one second. Let me just shift this also. So Ayan, you're doing it correct. Ayan, like you have done all of them correct. So we have 2 more locations. You can try them out as well. So first of all, we have Pune. Let me clear the screen. So Pune is located in Maharashtra. So if this is like we know that this is Mumbai, this coast over here. So Mumbai, Pune is like right, it's below it basically. It's not right below, somewhere over here. Yes, the correct color. Like somewhere over here. We see another coast over here. Like this is another coast, and it's just right beside it. And the last map location for this chapter is Gandhinagar. Gandhinagar is in Gujarat, and it's right over here. So we can consider it to be in the second Gulf. It's like no, it's in the first Gulf. It's like right over here, right below this. So these are the map locations for the software technology parks. So yeah, so it's correct. Ayan is correct. Okay. So now this is a last MCQ as well, so you can try it out. Which of the following industries uses limestone as a raw material? Limestone, calcium oxide. Like where do you use this? You have options: sugar, cement, aluminium, jute. Think properly. Limestone. What could it be used for? Limestone is calcium oxide. So just you can take, like you can use your knowledge of chemistry for this as well. Okay, so the answer is cement. Okay, aluminium, the raw material of for producing aluminium is bauxite. For sugar, it is sugarcane, and jute, it's the jute crop. So cement is the answer. Okay, so now it's the last subtopic of this chapter, air pollution. So I'll do the pollution, and Jashwant, you can do the reforms. Okay, like how it is solved,
Yeah,
like what
I'll
can
do
be.
that. Okay.
Okay, so industrial pollution and environmental degradation. So first of all, we'll be talking about air pollution. Air pollution is caused by the presence of high proportion of undesirable gases such as sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide. Also, the airborne particulate matters contain both solid and liquid particles like dust, spray mists, and smoke. So these paper factories, brick kilns, refineries, smelting plants, they all emit smoke, and we know that smoke is very harmful for our environment. Burning of fossil fuels in big and small factories that ignore pollution norms also have a huge impact towards the formation of the pollution of our air. Even toxic gas leaks can be very hazardous with long-term effects. Air pollution adversely affects human health, animals, plants, buildings, and the atmosphere as a whole. Next one is water pollution. So water pollution is caused by both organic and inorganic industrial wastes which are discharged into the rivers. So the main culprits in this regard are paper, pulp, chemical, textile and dyeing, petroleum refineries, tanneries, and electroplating industries. So these industries let out dyes, detergents, acids, salts, and heavy metals like lead and mercury, pesticides, fertilizers, synthetic chemicals with carbon, plastics, and rubber, etc., into the water bodies. So first of all, we already know that these are very toxic materials, and releasing them into water completely pollutes them, and it makes them devoid of any use. It's not just like first of all, it affects the ocean, the ecosystem of the ocean. It completely disrupts the balance of the ecology in the rivers and like water bodies, and it also affects human use. Like even humans use water, even though it pollutes the rivers and stuff, but it's not to such an extent. So even human use of water is damaged when these industries they pollute our water sources. Fly ash, phosphogypsum, and iron and steel slag are the major solid wastes in India. Okay, so now we have thermal pollution. Thermal pollution of water occurs when hot water from factories and thermal plants are drained into rivers and ponds before cooling. So the wastes from nuclear power plants and nuclear and weapon facilities, they can cause cancers, birth defects, and miscarriages. So just we have a lot of like what do you say, limitations coming up for industries. So now we're going to talk. This point is more related to land pollution. So soil and water pollution are closely related. Dumping of wastes, especially glass, harmful chemicals, industrial effluents, packing salts, and garbage, renders the soil useless. So when the rainwater percolates to the soil, carrying these pollutants, even the groundwater is contaminated. So first of all, we know that our groundwater levels are already low. Now if it gets contaminated, it just completely destroys the balance of the water table. So these are some, this one more. So the last kind of pollution is noise pollution. So we know that noise is a source of irritation. So unwanted noise, it's basically a source of irritation for us. So noise pollution, it results in irritation and anger. It can also cause hearing impairment, increased heart rate, blood pressure, among other physiological effects. Unwanted sound is an irritant, and it is a source of stress. So the industrial and construction activities and machinery, they use a lot of these kinds of machines that produce a lot of sound. The factory equipment, generators, saws, pneumatic and electric drills are also make a lot of noise. So now we're going to talk about some control of and how to control environmental degradation. So Jashwant, you can take it over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we saw how there are different types of pollutions caused by these industries. So now we're going to see how to control them. Omar, can you go back to the presentation?
Yeah. You can see, right?
I'm in the map.
One second. Yeah, this
Okay.
you can see,
Yeah,
right?
thank you. Yeah, thank you. So now we're going to see how to control these environmental degradations. So every liter of wastewater discharged by our industry pollutes 8 times the quantity of fresh water. So it basically means if we dump 1 liter of wastewater into the rivers, like 8 liters of the fresh water gets polluted. So some suggestions to stop these are minimizing use water for processing by reusing and recycling it in 2 or more successive stages, harvesting of rainwater to meet water requirements, treating hot water and effluents before releasing them in rivers and ponds. Treatment of industrial effluents can be done in 3 phases. Primary treatment by mechanical means. This involves cleaning, grinding, flocculation, and sedimentation. The secondary treatment is by biological processes, and the tertiary treatment by biological, chemical, and physical processes. So this involves recycling of wastewater. We can go to the
Next
next
slide.
slide.
Yeah.
So overdrawing of groundwater reserves by industry where there is a threat to groundwater resources also needs to be regulated legally. Particulate matter in the air can be reduced by filtering smokestacks to factories with electrostatic precipitators, fabric filters, scrubbers, and inertial separators. Smoke can be reduced by using oil or gas instead of coal in factories. Machinery and equipment can be used and generators should be fitted with silencers. Almost all machinery can be redesigned to increase energy efficiency and reduce noise. Noise absorbing materials may be used apart from personal use of earplugs and earphones. So in this slide, we have seen how to prevent or reduce the pollution caused by water, groundwater, for air pollution and as well as for noise pollution. How to prevent it.
Okay, so now we
So
go on
let's
to
go
the
to the
last part. So we're going to talk about NTPC. So NTPC is a major power providing corporation in India. It has ISO certification for EMS, which is Environment Management System. So this corporation has a proactive approach for preserving our natural environment and natural resources like water, oil, gas, and fuels in places where it is setting up power plants. So they do this through a couple of methods. So there are 5 main methods. So these are optimum utilization of equipment, adopting latest techniques, and upgrading the existing equipment, minimizing waste generation by maximizing ash utilization, providing green belts for nurturing ecological balance and addressing the question of special for purpose vehicles for afforestation, reducing environmental pollution through ash pond management, ash water recycling system and liquid waste management, and ecological monitoring, reviews, and online database management for all its power stations. So this is quite important. You can have a go through it. So now I have given a link. I'll post it in the chat as well. So it's a small test. This will really help you like for the subjective and objective kind of questions. So I'll be posting the link in the Zoom chat as well, so you can attempt it now. The link is working, right? Everyone can access it, right? So you can take your time. It's quite long, but then everything is included in this, so you can try it out. From 10N, everyone got right. We have 3 students, right? So everyone got right. Rudraksh, Ayush, everyone got right. You can all get the link right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so I wanted to show one thing. One second. Okay, so you can see the slide now. Can you see the screen? Yeah, right. The map. Can you see this question?
Yeah.
Okay, so here
Yeah.
I'll tell you what you need to do. So you have a couple of map questions. So first of all, I've marked. So over here I mentioned A, right? So I've also mentioned A in the map. So you like you see this location over here. So you have to identify what this is. I've also mentioned that it is a cotton textile industry in Mumbai. So you have to find a cotton textile industry in Mumbai that lies over here, like right over here. So you just identify it, and you option is there. So you can you don't need to like remember it. So with the option itself, you can identify it. So yeah. And one more thing, this is supposed to be Maharashtra. Just correct it, okay? This is supposed to be Maharashtra. It's a small mistake. So you can take your time. It's quite long, so you can take your time. Like I think there's a confusion in that question, so we can just discuss that. So the question was, one second, I'll read out the question. So the question was, why are sugar mills concentrated in sugarcane producing areas? Explain any two problems faced by the sugar industry. So no one has got this right. So first of all, the first answer is why sugar mills concentrated in sugar producing areas. So we had discussed that like on haulage, the like it's written over here, like the raw material, that's the sugarcane, it's bulky, and in haulage the sugar content of the sugarcane decreases, that is its sucrose content decreases. So if these industries are located close to the like sugarcane producing areas, then the like the sucrose content of the sugarcane will be much higher, right? So that is actually the reason for the first answer. You will get 1 mark for this. Now the second question was, any like state any two problems faced by the sugar industry in India. Everyone wrote advantages, like not advantages. Everyone wrote locational factors. Like these 3 points everyone wrote, but then these are not like problems. These are the advantages. But then the limitations are these 4 points. These these four points. Yes. So basically, the seasonal nature of the sugar industries is one of the problems. Sugar mills are busy during some times of for example, the times of sugarcane harvest. Also, the production processes and the methods used for production are really not that efficient. They're old, and old technology and old machines are used. So also transport delay in reaching the sugarcane to factories, which reduces the sucrose content, and also the need to maximize the use of bagasse. So you should have written these points instead. So yeah, just wanted to inform. Okay, so
Whether all of them have completed, whether all of them have completed MCQs,
sir,
among,
everyone did, sir. So that's what, sir. It's over.
okay, okay.
Okay, so it's all done. I discussed that one question where everyone had a doubt. Other than that, everyone's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Good, okay, okay, no problem.
Okay, sir.
It went on well, and they also cooperated very well.
Okay, so if you're done with the test, you can leave. So yeah, I'll correct and send you the marks. Okay, so you can also know where you went wrong.
Yeah, thanks to everybody. Thanks to everybody. Okay. First day, little bit delay, because the moment we reached, we had to take bath and then sit here. Thanks to Jaswant also. He came to the school also. After that, he attempted to present this. Okay. Anyway, it's a good work.